There is one Star Wars game that is undoubtedly one of the best flight simulator games that you've likely not played. And no, I'm not talking about Star Wars Squadrons. The game was Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, but specifically on the DS version. The game came out on a variety of consoles like the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the Game Boy Advance, but the DS version was one of the best and possibly the most underrated of them all. That's most likely due to the fact that 90% of the game was just a 2D brawler side-scroller, not very visually impressive for a DS game. However, the other 10% of it is some of the best Star Wars gameplay I've played in a long time, and that being a completely fully fledged flight simulator. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you all the characters you can play, all the maps you can fly in, and why it was so damn good. But before I jump into it, if you're a massive fan of Star Wars and Star Wars games alike, why not join our Discord? We have about 3,000 of you already, and everyone there plays games that range from Star Wars Squadrons, Star Wars Empire at War, and so many more. So if you're interested to meet like-minded Star Wars fans, invite code to our Discord in the pinned comment down below. But with that all said and done, let's dive right into the video. So, Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith on the DS is pretty much the exact same version on the Game Boy Advance. But the only difference is that you have segments of the game that is fully flight simulator. And on top of that, you have a multiplayer skirmish mode in that flight simulator. You can play with friends and random people online as well as locally with local wireless connection. For the majority of the game, it is relatively fun, if not a little bit bare bones. There is a lot of repetitive combat here that didn't really stick for many people. And whilst it looks visually impressive for a Game Boy Advance game, it's really lackluster for a DS one. You can play as Obi-Wan Kenobi as well as Anakin. They both have their own branching storylines that take about an hour and a half each. So a relatively short game at least, but coming to the topic of this video, the skirmish battles is so much more. There are a few levels where you're having to fly through Coruscant and take down some Vulture droids. A lot of it is very much just flying through obstacles and then getting out to a wide range area where you take down enemies. And in this game mode, depending on what ship you're playing, you have two main ways of attacking. You have your standard laser fire as well as lock-on missiles. Other buttons on the controller allow you to roll your ship, speed up and slow down. If your ship has shields, you're able to allocate them to the front or the back accordingly. But unfortunately, to do that, you have to use the touchscreen. So if you're wanting to run this game purely on gamepad, you're not going to get the full experience, I'm afraid. During the battle stages and skirmish mode, there are plenty of collectibles as well. Collecting health packs allow you to regenerate your hull, shield packs that allow you to regenerate your shields, missile packs that recoup all of your ammo, but then also other items that can increase your thrusters as well as your standard firing attacks. In the skirmish mode, there are a fair few maps that you can play on. These range from Bespin, Geonosis, Tatooine, and Hoth, but unfortunately some of these are just named as Space 1, Space 2, City 1, City 2. But just looking at this gameplay, they are really visually impressive for a DS game. But if you think you had a lot to choose from when it comes to the maps, there are plenty more in terms of characters. Despite the game being specifically in the prequel trilogy, these are actually a collection from the prequel and original. These range from the Annie Jedi Starfighter 2, the ARC 170, the Vulture droid, Jedi Starfighter 1, Jedi Starfighter 2, the Millennium Falcon, Obi Jedi Starfighter 2, the Slave 1, the TIE Fighter Advanced, the TIE Fighter, the Droid Tride Fighter, the V-Wing, the X-Wing, and so many more. And not to mention, all these ships have their own separate stats when it comes to speed, hull, laser, shields, and torpedoes. And just like Star Wars Squadrons, ships like the Advanced TIE Fighter and the Droid Tri-Fighter all don't have shields but have a much more laser firepower to boot. If you're playing against bots, however, you can assign specific characters to their ships. So rather than having an easy, medium, or hard AI run the Slave 1, you can have a hero running their standard ship at an even higher difficulty. Apart from Boba Fett, unfortunately, they actually gave him easy difficulty. You unlock these ships by progressing through the single player game mode with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, which is a little bit of a bummer because a lot of these ships are much better than others. If you're running a Geonosian starfighter and trying to go against Han Solo, you're going to have a really really bad time. So unfortunately, the more OP ships have to be unlocked by playing the game. But each ship has its own personality. It's not just the hull and the speed and the laser power. It's also about its other stats that the game doesn't show you. Some ships turn faster than others, some accelerate slower, and some of them have a much faster firing rate on their laser. Some just don't have any torpedoes at all. So you could literally spend hours upon hours playing tons of skirmish battles with all the ships available until you can decide on what is your favorite ship to run. After a bunch of playing with the limited amount of ships that I have, I actually ended up liking the Jedi Starfighter 2 the most. I felt like I could really outmaneuver torpedoes heading my way compared to when playing the more stronger Arc 170. When it comes to difficulty, however, the easy, medium, hard, and hero are vastly different. Playing against a cadet easy difficulty is really not that challenging. Whilst you can certainly get into more interesting dogfighting scenarios with them, they hardly use their torpedoes and they just allow you to get the win. The more difficult Captain hard difficulty still pose quite a challenge, but it takes them a while to secure a kill that isn't you, which means it gives you a lot of time to finally get that 5-kill win. But when it comes to heroes like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, it's a completely different way of playing. Just look at this gameplay here. I spawn into the match and these guys are right on me immediately. They are pretty relentless, but not impossible to kill. Depending on where you spawn, if you get in at an angle where they can't see you, it's pretty much a free kill. But the moment they see you and you start going into a dogfight, it's almost impossible to kill them. You absolutely have to focus on positioning your shields accordingly, depending on where they are, and rely purely on your primary laser fire. They're just going to completely outmaneuver torpedoes if you try to fire them at close range. In some maps, there are other larger ships, like the Venator Star Destroyer, for instance. And they're not just for show, they're actually equipped with turbo lasers. And you can take them down if they're causing you a bit of trouble. I didn't really find them too difficult to handle, but they do pose a threat because all of the collectibles you need are surrounded around that Venator. So a little bit of risk and reward, if you will. There are even some extra maps in the single player that aren't available in skirmish. I'm not sure if they're unlockable by playing through the single player, but I wouldn't hold my breath. But despite that, the sky maps look absolutely beautiful. That remind me of a lot of maps from Star Wars Squadrons, but just crunched down to DS version. The maps genuinely look beautiful for what handheld they were developed for. And one of my favorite maps is Tatooine, purely on the sky map showing the two suns. You get a really great viewpoint when you spawn at the edge of the map. And the Hoth map actually reminds me of the Star Wars Shadow of Empire game for the N64. Unfortunately, the online multiplayer for the game is no longer functioning. Obviously, Nintendo has taken down their DS servers years ago, but that doesn't mean you can't play this game with friends via a DS emulator and netplay. Citra and Melon DS emulator are great examples of that. So if you have an Xbox controller and 3 other friends around the world wanting to play with you, that's possible. For anybody who's stuck with EcksToo for a while now, knows that we do this with an N64 emulator when we do Berio Kart, which happens almost every Thursday, by the way. So if you're interested, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that live stream. And this is a brief introduction into why I think Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is one of the best Star Wars games that you might not have played. Just don't play 90% of the game. It's not that great. The other 10 probably were some of the best I've ever played. But this is where I pass the question over to you guys. Have you played this game, specifically the Flight Simulator Skirmish mode? Have you played it with friends in the past on your DS's? What was your experience with it? Let me know in the comments down below, because this is actually a game I played when it came out and I really enjoyed the space combat in it. Of course, I read all your comments and I'll get back to some of you as well. And of course, finally, one last time, if you haven't joined our Discord and you love everything Star Wars and Star Wars gaming, our invite code to our Discord will be in the pinned comment down below. And if you want more Star Wars coverage, why not check our video about the new Disney Star Wars hotel? It's a little bit of a disaster and it might be an interesting watch for you guys, so I'll leave that in the info card in the top right now. But besides that, guys, I've been Charlie, you've been watching EcksToo, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.